Alright, please everybody join me in chanting the Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. Hello everybody. Welcome to the Armadale Hangout Group. I don't know if you call it the same in English, but in the Netherlands we have this term called hang youth, and that's like the youth who hang out on the squares and in dodgy alleys and hanging out on the streets together. But we hang out together as well. We're also a hangout group, but we hang out in a much more beautiful way, because we decide to do some meditation together and not hanging out on the streets doing dodgy stuff. And it's really beautiful to come together to meditate, and it's also beautiful to chant the Metta Sutta together as we just did. And one particular phrase of the Metta Sutta just drew my attention. It's not being demanding in nature. And that is a very beautiful thing to reflect upon, especially with regards to our meditation. Because often when we meditate, we might set certain goals or standards that we want to live up to or achieve. We might demand something from our mind, like we sit down and we sort of expect or demand that the mind gets peaceful or happy, or that something happens, something interesting, that meditation isn't just boring or whatever. No, something has to always happen. That's often how we feel like. And I decided to talk about that topic a bit today because living in a monastery, people try not to be demanding. Try not to be demanding on the food that we get every day. We just accept what we are given and just not be demanding of the clothes we are wearing. Earlier I was joking with Venerable that I've got a hole here actually in my robe that I need to fix. I don't know if you can see, but I was joking I'll put the microphone through the hole. But I'm not demanding of my robes, because as you can tell they are very worn down. But sometimes, although we try to live a non-demanding life externally, sometimes you talk to monks and sometimes I get this feeling that they are still demanding of themselves in their meditation. And so can I be sometimes. But sometimes I speak to people in the monastery, not just monks, but people in general, and they might say something like, when Ajahn Brahm meditates, he gets all the peace in the world. And people expect that they are gonna do the exact same thing. And if they fail, sometimes people feel bad about themselves. Or worse, sometimes they say, when Ajahn Brahm, he so easily lets go of things. I could never be like that. That kind of speech you hear very often. But then people sometimes seem like they almost give up trying because I cannot be like that, so why would I even try? That is like demanding in another way. You're not demanding in a way, you're demanding so much of yourself that you're not even trying. But my advice, general advice for you today, for your meditation is don't try to be something you are not. Don't try to live up to some sort of standard, whether that be some other person that you try to emulate, or whether that be something you made up for yourself, some standard you set for yourself. Forget about all that. Don't have any goals or expectations in meditation, and just be content with however the meditation develops, however it happens. And you might say, well, if I'm contented with whatever happens in my mind, then I'm not gonna ever get anywhere. Because sometimes it feels like if I'm just content with being restless and angry, am I not just gonna keep restless and angry? That is like this psychological weird thing that we sometimes have. We think if we just accept things, nothing will change. Which is logical, of course, to think that way. But it's exactly, in my experience, that accepting things and contentment, that is actually what removes the restlessness and the ill will and the desires. And you can see why that is so from a logical perspective, hopefully also from your experience as well. Because if we accept things the way they are, then we're no longer fighting with the way things are. We're no longer fighting with our minds, with our bodies, and we can be at peace. And by just being content, by being content with being restless, for example, we automatically become less restless because we're happy just to be there. happy to be with the way our minds is, or the way our minds are today. And with ill will, it's the same. Ill will is always, we want something to be different from the way it is. And like, so, that my mind shouldn't be like that. My body should not be like this. Yeah, but by just being content, actually, you can drop that ill will. I once met a monk in England, and he taught me one of the best things about dealing with anger. He says, sometimes when I'm angry, I don't practice metta, I'm just gonna be really angry. Because that teaches you to just accept sometimes the fact that you're angry. Sometimes we get angry with the fact that we're angry. You know, the Buddha taught, don't be angry. So then we get angry and we're like, oh, I'm a bad Buddhist. I messed up, I shouldn't be angry. And then we get angry with that. And so it just compounds the problem. So what that monk taught me, Ajahn Munindo was his name, is to sometimes just accept the fact that you're angry first and to just become contented with it. Don't be demanding of yourself that you should be always bright and kind, spiritual genius or something. No, sometimes you just accept that you're angry. And just that very acceptance itself already reduces the ill will. It reduces the anger. Because you're already moving closer to the way things are. And this is the same with setting standards for our meditation, or setting expectations when we are demanding in nature, as the Metta Sutta says. If instead we just happy to be where we are and be at peace with the way things are, then we can actually meditate much more happily. You'll find that if you set some standard, like, last week I had a really peaceful meditation, I'm gonna do the exact same today. If you think like that, most of you will know from experience, then that meditation session is not gonna go very well. It's just gonna be one of those restless meditations. Instead, remember how did you get the peace the other time. Don't remember what you got and try to get back to what you got, but try to get back to how you got there. And you'll find that always the way you find peace is by not being demanding in nature, by being happy to be with the way things are. And as I said before, sometimes people might not be demanding in that way, but they might be comparing themselves to others. They might know some person who they, for some reason or other, think has many peaceful meditations, and then they think, I should be like that as well. I have been a monk for nearly a decade. Why is my mind still so restless? Some people might think like that. Or you think, I've been meditating since I was 30 years ago, and still I'm here being restless and not enlightened. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but sometimes, some of you might recognize, sometimes you think like that. You think you should be better, somehow a more skillful meditator than you are. Sometimes deep down inside we have that feeling of not being good enough. But I say, forget about that. You're all good enough. And just accept the way our practice unfolds. Accept the way our meditation is. Some people's meditation is just much more smooth than others, and that's just the way it is. It's like I live at the other side of the monastery, and sometimes because it's quite far and it's been like 40 degrees days, sometimes we monks, we get driven with the car from over there. It's like 20 minutes walking or something. That's a bit much in 40 degrees up the hill. So sometimes we go by car, and then we go by car, we have to go on the dirt roads with a lot of bumps and a lot of holes. So you have to drive carefully and slowly. Whereas if you leave from the monastery, you're straight away on the asphalt. Now I make this simile to compare the road to our spiritual practice. There might be some geniuses who sit down and their road of meditation is all the most smoothly paved asphalt, and they go from A to B very quickly. But for most of us, we live in the outback, as it were, and our road of meditation is more bumpy. There is more dust on the road, there's holes, and there's pits that we have to drive around. But are we going to complain about that and say, my road should be paved, it shouldn't be bumpy? Well, if we do that, we never get anywhere. Instead, we just get in the car and we drive. And this is a simile for meditation. Instead of complaining, my mind has so many defilements, why? Why me? And those other people, they have it easy. I have it so hard. No, instead of complaining like that, we just sit down and we just meditate. We go for it. As we drive the car, we just accept whatever the meditation is for us. Either in general or in that specific session. We're just happy to be with whatever is. Because it doesn't matter whether the road is smooth or bumpy. What matters is that we move along. And we just can't move along if we don't meditate. So we just experience the meditation as it is. I hope that makes some sense to you. And there's another analogy that I just quickly thought of before I came here, which is that sometimes it feels like if we are just content to be and let the mind do whatever it needs to do, sometimes it feels like we should have more control, is sometimes what we feel like. Because by being content with whatever happens, the scary thing is you have to let go of the future. And therefore you also have to let go of some control. And just be happy. If the mind is restless, let it be happy. Let it be restless. Just let it be. That is the way the Buddha said to get into deep meditation, is by letting be. Letting go. Not through willful force, he said, but by letting go. And a simile I made up for that is, imagine you're walking in the park with a dog. And it's your nice little dog, and you want them to stay close to you. Walk right next to you. So you hold them on the leash, but the dog is pulling on the leash. And every time you pull back, stay here, stay close to me, dog, don't run away. Yeah? But the dog keeps running away, and you keep pulling and pulling, and you keep fighting and fighting. And both you and the dog just get very tired and upset with one another. The dog is an analogy for the mind, of course. What you do instead of pulling the leash all the time, you say, okay, dog, you go run in the park. Run some circles around the trees. Do whatever you need to do. And you'll find that your mind, your dog inside of you, is actually very well trained. And it will run around for a little bit, but very soon come back to you. When it comes back to you, it just stays next to you and walks right beside you. And you don't need to keep pulling all the time your mind to the present moment. You just first you let your mind just wander a bit. Just let it be. But soon enough, your mind gets bored of that and will come to you, and it will come to the present moment. Now, those are two instructions or two similes that I hope might help you a little bit in your meditation. So I suggest we actually do some meditation now, and I will guide you through it, and the topic will be letting go and being at peace with whatever is and whatever our minds present to us today. We will be at peace with all that. So please find a nice posture to sit in. We will meditate for about half an hour together, maybe slightly longer. So make sure you sit in such a way that you can sit comfortably for that amount of time. Just spend a minute or two arranging your body in whatever way you feel is right for today. Just bring your attention to your body. Focus on all the feelings you feel there. See if you can relax them a little bit. And we relax the body not by being demanding of it, but by being kind to it and letting it relax by itself. And we can tell ourselves, whatever this meditation session will be, I will be content with it. Might be a smooth road or a bumpy road, but I will not demand anything. Just happy to be here today and have the opportunity to meditate. What matters is not the result of the meditation, but the input. What matters is our attitude towards what we experience, not the experience itself. And when it comes to relaxing the body, some of you will have aches and pains in the body that won't relax, won't go away. But what do you do then? Don't be demanding in nature. See if you can find some peace, maybe even friendship with those feelings. You can focus on any ache or pain in the body and say to it, I allow you to be exactly as you are. Because this is nature. This is the way the body is. Some of you are getting old, and old bodies have more pains and aches, but even young bodies. It's just the nature of the body to be uncomfortable. And if we demand it to be otherwise, we're just creating problems and craving. You can tell yourself that whatever feelings might exist in the body, they're allowed to be there. And I won't push them away, and I won't fight with them. We allow the body to be as it wants to be. And you might find that with this attitude, problems disappear. First of all, your attitude towards the body is no longer a problem, but even the body itself, as a response, often relaxes because you let it. So even the physical problems often reduce through your attitude of kindness. Now, I invite you to apply the same attitude to the mind as well. Just tell yourself, mind, whatever you are like today, whatever you are like in general, whatever you are like in this meditation session, I accept you as you are. Don't need to be any different. I don't need to be any different. Don't keep your mind strict on a leash, like the dog. Especially in the beginning of the meditation, just give your mind some room to run around if it wants to. So just tell your mind, you can do whatever you want. It's okay if you start thinking about this or that. I accept it all. And with that attitude, more often than not, you will find the mind coming back to you, coming back to the present moment. Just because you are happy and content. The mind wants to be happy and content together with you. And with those reflections, I will now let you meditate for another 20 minutes. Then I will ring the gong to signal the end. It's almost time to end the meditation. Please reflect on how you feel now and whether you found any peace during this meditation. Whatever little bit. And if you did, then remind yourself of how you got there. And you'll find that peace comes from acceptance and contentment, not from fighting with our minds. And also, if during this meditation perhaps you didn't really find any peace, and always end with a positive note and just be content and happy that you took the time to meditate. And thank yourself for that. Okay, dear friends, those were some instructions, hopefully useful, about how and why not to be demanding in nature, especially when it comes to meditation. To not be expecting to do much from my body and mind, and instead be happy with whatever is. Because as counterintuitive as it may seem, being happy and content with whatever is, that is actually the way to change. And that is the way to become more peaceful, more happy, more at ease, even more healthy and less painful in the body as well. So I hope those instructions were helpful to you, and I hope they made sense. If not, then that's okay, because I'm not demanding in nature of you or of my own talks. If they are bad, that's just the way it is, and that's all good. Ajahn Chah once said, sometimes people ask me questions and I give bad answers, then it must just be their bad karma. So that's how I reflect. If my talks are bad, it must be your bad karma, nothing to do with me. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, those were some reflections of you. Please remember the simile of the bumpy road and the smooth road. Sometimes in life we have to travel the bumpy road, but we don't complain. We just get in the car and we drive, instead of wishing that the council had paved this road for us. And also remember the simile of the dog. Instead of pulling the dog on the leash, pulling your mind to the present moment, just let it wander for a while and you'll find that the dog often comes back to you by itself. But I can expand on that simile a little bit. Sometimes you let the mind wander, and it enjoys wandering so much that it never comes back to you. But what you do then is don't go running after the mind, trying to grab the leash again, but just blow, basically, and say, come here, mind. And you'll find your mind has played around enough, and it'll come to you and stay with you. However, if right from the beginning of your meditation you are like, okay, stay with me, don't go anywhere, then you'll find your mind just gets more restless, and it'll be like the dog pulling on the leash forever and never finding any peace. So, I hope that helped, and if you have any questions, then I will attempt to give an answer.
So if you'd like to put any questions you have in the chat or unmute yourself, you're very welcome to. Gloria has a question. I see your hand waving there, Gloria. Welcome in this evening.
Yes, okay. Thank you for your talk and the meditation. I have a question, which is that I think accepting myself or like be happy and content sometimes feel easier said than done. I think it's because I have a very strong conditioning to be a perfectionist. And because my mom is that kind of like Asian parent. Like
Okay.
if you came second place, she will ask you why didn't you like achieve the first place.
Okay.
Like my parent is that kind of person, and also I was a like classical pianist for I think quite many years, and I think like the classical music playing is that you have to like achieve perfection, and I think all kinds of like things combined, I will have a very conditioning to like achieve perfection, and sometimes I just don't know how to relax because it's very difficult for me. And yes, I think it's like mostly a conditional thing, and I try to like recondition myself, but I sometimes just like don't know how to do, because I will have something like the Ajahn Amaro say, the I know good mantra. If I sit for meditation and I listen to myself, I can hear myself saying this, like, I'm not doing good enough, like it will keep repeating, like for, if I sit for half an hour, it will go on for, I think, half an hour. And I think sometimes it's like kind of difficult for me. Do you have any advice for this? Thank you.
Okay. So you realize you are conditioned to be a bit of a perfectionist, I understand. But what I hear from your question is, how do I get rid of that as quickly as possible? And that is demanding in nature. Instead, just be happy to be the perfectionist. There is many good things about being a perfectionist, and you can laugh at yourself for being a perfectionist. The important thing, again, is not to the place we're going, but the attitude we have. And the important thing is also that we realize that we have potential to grow. Let's put it like that, instead of putting it like negatively, like I need to get rid of my perfectionism. You rephrase it. Oh, I have potential to grow in acceptance. Yeah, that already changes the whole ball game. And I relate, by the way, to being a perfectionist. I can tell you a little story of how in high school I always tried to get the best grades of the class. And I always was not happy with any mistakes I made. One time we had a French test. Remember French? I was not always particularly good at, but I did my best. But this time the test had the bonus question. Yeah, sometimes the teacher gives you a bonus question because they know the students, their grades may not be so good. I give a bonus question for extra points so the students can lift their grades a bit. Now what happened during the test? I had a 9.5 score for the main test. And then I also had the whole bonus question correct. And the bonus question was worth 1 point. So the teacher told me, I've never done this before, Simon, which used to be my name. But since you had 9.5 and 1 point bonus question, I'm gonna give you a 10.5. Which normally the 10 is the highest grade you can get, Gloria, in the Netherlands. So he said, I'm gonna give you a 10.5. And what was my initial reaction, you think, as a perfectionist? Was it, yay, a 10.5, excellent? No, it was, what did I do wrong that I didn't get 11? So I can very much relate to being a perfectionist, and sometimes I still see it in my mind, but I just laugh at it. You know, it's just a part of who I am, and it's all right, but I don't try to take it into my meditation. In some areas of life it helps being a little bit finicky with the details. You know, it can be good if you do the friend test, and if you don't care about it, then you get a bad grade. But if you try your best, then you get high grades. But in meditation, just take time off from all that. And you say, oh, meditation is different. Now I'm going to just be happy with the way my mind is. And I'm also, this is the trick, gonna be happy if I am not happy. I'm gonna be content with not being content. Because if you're a perfectionist, you're like, I should be more content than I am. I'm not content enough. But then you just tell yourself, I recognize that attitude, and I'm just gonna be content with that as well. I'm gonna be content with whatever it is like. I'm gonna be content being not 100% content. You see, it sounds counterintuitive, but it actually helps. You just slowly build more contentment by just being content with however content you can be. And don't aim for perfectionism. If you think I'm gonna be 100%, no, not 100%, 110% content. Because that's what perfectionism often is like. You're not aiming for 100%, you're aiming for 110%. If you aim like that, your meditation will be struggle. Instead, just aim, I'm gonna be 70% content, and that's good enough. But if you have that attitude, I'm just gonna be 70% content and it's good enough, that is actually the way to being 100% content, funnily enough. If you have the attitude, I'm gonna be 100% content, then, funnily enough, you will only be like 50% content, maybe at most. So, just be happy with whatever happens, and also recognize, as I said before, that the road is not always paved. So sometimes if you are conditioned in a certain way, and it's not just you, everybody is conditioned to be demanding of their minds, then just realize that that is the way it is, and that is just something we have to learn from instead of getting rid of. Yeah? So I hope that helps a bit. And yeah, I can tell for myself, speaking for myself, that slowly over the years I've been much less demanding of myself, much more hopefully easygoing. Other people tell me as well, so it seems to be working. Just keep with it, and slowly but surely you'll see that meditation becomes more easy.
Can I ask one more question? Did you fully accept your perfectionism?
No, I don't know. It sort of just starts disappearing. Yeah, I don't have it as much anymore as when I was a teenager. Basically, from the time I started meditating, it started getting less and less. When I just accept myself the way I am, and just accept it. Sometimes I do work here in the office or something, and I know I can be a bit more about putting the right dots on the I than some other monks, and I know that of myself, and I just make it laugh out of it, and I tell them, yeah, I know I'm a bit finicky about the details, that's just the way I am, and it's like, yeah, maybe I did accept it, but it's also became less over the years as well, for sure. Yeah. So just be happy, Groya, with however you are like, and don't try to be somebody else, because why would you? As I said, in the monastery you sometimes get people and say, Ajahn Brahm is so peaceful and blah blah, and I want to be like that as well, but then you just create suffering, because you're just trying to be something you're not, and you're creating this demand basically of how you want to be. But the strange thing about meditation and the development of the Buddha's path is that it all starts with accepting the way things are, and then things actually do start to change. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but that is the way it is, in my experience anyway. Yeah. So thank you for that question. It was a perfect question.
Well, thank you for your answer too. A perfect answer, I might add. I got to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Is there anybody else who'd like to unmute and ask a question? And you're most welcome to if you'd like to. Oh, yes, we've got one hand in the air here now. Let me see if I can find it. Is it on the screen? Who has their hand in the air? Oh, Raki, welcome. Would you like to unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes. Venerable, recently I'm getting a realization that in my meditation that my mind is doing its own thing and my body is doing its own thing. But what am I here for? Like my mind is thinking and grasping things, learning, doing its job, and in the night I'm just recapping my day, thinking about past or wondering about the future, or even sometimes it's just peaceful, doesn't think about things, and my body is just doing its own thing, breathing, my heart is beating, and my lungs are just doing, every organ is doing its work. I don't even have to do anything for my mind and even for my body. But what I realize is whenever I'm trying to do something, I'm just trying to just, I don't know, maybe disturb my body or maybe disturb the mind whenever I'm trying to do something. So my question is, my mind is doing its own thing, the body is doing its own thing, what am I here for?
What are you here for? Okay. Well, my first advice would be to not try to overthink these kind of things. Because sometimes when we start thinking about meditation and what am I and what is the mind and exactly how does it function, we can go wrong and think about things in the wrong way, and sometimes it leads to even kind of like depressions or things like that. And meditation is not supposed to be an intellectual pursuit. It's supposed to be a journey of the emotions. And what you're here for is to try and find more happy and peaceful emotions inside of yourself, and also more, let's say, wholeness within yourself. Now, a problem with meditation's instructions is sometimes that we talk in terms of you and the mind and me and the body, but that creates a duality. It's just the way we have to talk about meditation. When I say, make your body peaceful and allow your mind to be the way it is. But by talking in that way, we create like this duality, like there's you and the body, and there's you and the mind. But in reality, this is all like better looked at as all part of the same being. The body and the mind and you are all one thing. And if I say relax the mind, then I also mean relax yourself. So don't try to create this dual thing that, like, you are always looking at your mind, but incorporate yourself in the instructions as well. Incorporate yourself in the peace. And if you incorporate yourself in the peace and not just trying to get something out there to be peaceful, but be yourself peaceful as well, then you'll find that these questions just about what is my purpose or whatever, they disappear because you're just more peaceful to be there. And of course you will know as Buddhists that the Buddha did address questions about the self and it's all that kind of thing, but don't try to answer them by thinking them through. They will answer themselves when the meditation goes deeply enough, and it will always be, in a way, if the answers are true answers according to the Buddha's view, it will always lead to more peace and more freedom, and not towards more worry and thinking about what is my purpose in life, etc. But I'm not going to address now all the deeper philosophical ideas, because, as I said before, the way of meditation is not to think it through, but feel it through, and try to feel your way towards more peace as a whole. The word samadhi you might know, Ajahn Brahm translates as stillness, but it literally means to become together, to become one. Oneness of mind is one of the words the Buddha also used to describe meditation. And by oneness I mean you don't have this idea that there is the meditator and the object of meditation, but it just becomes all one, and then you'll find more and more peace that way. I don't know if that makes any sense. Another way to look at it is that if you meditate with this idea that there is me and the mind, that in itself is also a kind of restlessness, because the thoughts of me, and this goes actually very deep, it's not just verbal thoughts, but even just the feeling of me versus the mind out there, that is also a kind of restlessness created by the mind. So you can actually try to reduce that as well. And I hope that makes some sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I'll try to contemplate it the next time. Thank you.
Okay, but don't think about it too much.
No, it's gonna be stressful for me.
Yeah, just feel your way in. That is my general advice, instead of thinking it through.
Thank you.
Well, here we have a question in the chat. Should we expect anything when meditating?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Chris?
Should we expect anything when meditating?
Expect a sore bottom if your cushion isn't comfortable enough. I don't know. No, don't create any expectations, because if you create expectations, then you are in the future. And if you're in the future, then it's very hard to find peace. So no, don't create any expectations. But you can create maybe, how should I phrase this? Aspirations instead of expectations. You have the aspiration to be peaceful instead of the expectation to be peaceful. You aspire to be kind instead of expect to be kind. And in that way, you can have a certain aim in a way, because meditation also shouldn't be just whatever floats your boat, do whatever. It is helpful to have a certain direction, but that direction should not be set by our desires or expectations, but it should be set by where we come from and what we aspire to be. It's a slight difference. It's just also just a way to think about it. But I hope that makes some sense. It mainly comes down to, if you create expectations and you feel those expectations create more problems in your meditation, then don't make those expectations. Don't set those expectations. However, maybe you set certain expectations and you find them somehow helpful, I don't know, and you get peaceful because of it, then I would say, go for it. Whatever helps to get you more peaceful, then do that.
Anyone else have a question they would like to unmute and ask, or type in the chat?
I have a question. Thank you, Venerable. I was wondering, when you were telling us when the mind is running and running and running, and you think it's running enough for a long time, and you whistle to have it back, and
Yeah.
you just think, come back, please come back, mind, or anything special? Because I want to try that.
Yeah. So, just to repeat. In my experience, if you straight away from the beginning of your meditation demand your mind to be still and in the present moment, it almost never works, because there is still this kind of energy in the mind that sort of needs to run off, basically. Sometimes I also compare it to like a train that needs to come to a stop. You don't expect the train to stop right away when you push the brake. It takes some time. It takes quite a while for a heavy train to stop, and the mind is often like that. It needs some time to settle, because we've been running around, we've been doing stuff, so it needs some time to slow down. And one way to do that is to just allow the mind for a while to think and roam around if it wants to, without demanding anything of it. So now you are asking, if it walks around a bit too much, maybe, how do you get it back? And then I would say, just suggest to your mind a meditation object, we sometimes call it. You can just suggest to your mind, just come to the present moment. Just be here with what is now, the sound you hear, the feelings in your body. Or you can even suggest to your mind, okay, just be still now. But I specifically phrase it as suggest to your mind, and not as demand of your mind or force your mind. You just give this idea to the mind. Maybe it's nice to be quiet now instead of thinking all about everything. And often your mind will actually think, that's a good idea. Let me just be peaceful now instead of just thinking about all this useless stuff that I've been thinking about. That is one way that I find very helpful. So that is like the whistle to the dog. You're like, come here, dog. It's basically you say to your mind, just come here, just stay with the present moment, and just see if your mind listens or not. Don't go running after the dog, because you'll just get tired. Just see if it comes or not. You just suggest to your mind to come to the present moment, and to come to some stillness inside. In my experience, that is a very helpful way to do it. There's other ways to get the mind still as well, but try that one first to see if it works.
Thank you. I'll try that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Melanie.
Does anybody else would like to ask a question at all? All right. Yes, we did get a reply on your last answer, Venerable. Aspirations as opposed to expectations.
Right.
So, thank you for that. Venerable, would you like to leave us with a blessing this evening?
Is that an expectation or an aspiration?
It's an aspiration.
Okay, in that case... Well, even the Metta Sutta, this is what should be done, it's how demanding. No, it is, this is what I would like to be. But I will give you a blessing as an aspiration for your practice. Nati me saranang anyang buddho me saranang varang etena satya vanjena sotu te hotu sabada. Nati me saranang anyang Dhammo me saranang varang etena satya vanjena sotu te hotu sabada. Nati me saranang anyang Sangho me saranang varang etena satya vanjena sotu te hotu sabada. I saw one person, only the hand, well, anyway.
Well, then, Lord, we thank you for the present of your presence.
Okay. Thank you everybody for meditating with me as well. And I'll see you when I see you.
Can I ask one quick question that's following up if your mind wander, does you mean that you just observe your thinking? If you keep thinking about something, like your mind wants to think about something, do you just observe your thoughts, or you switch your attention to somewhere else?
Oh, you can do both. Sometimes it is very helpful to just observe the thoughts from a distance and let them settle naturally. I don't have a cup of water here, but Ajahn Brahm often gives the simile of the cup of water. It's a cup of water, and he says, how do I get the water still? Not by holding a cup still, because when you try that, it'll always keep moving a little bit, the water. Instead, you put the glass down and you just let the water settle naturally. You might know that simile. So that's one very helpful way to get the mind to settle, by just distancing yourself from the thoughts. But sometimes it's also helpful to just suggest to your mind some stillness. Now, meditation is a very subtle endeavor, and there is all sorts of little ways that you can find peace and find kindness, and don't think there is one fixed way to do it. You can use your own methods as well. As long as you remember the aim of meditation, which is to find more peace and more kindness, more contentment, then whatever brings you in that direction is a good. And you can try all the different ways. You'll usually try ways that don't work. And the way to progress in meditation is not so much to realize what are the right methods, but to realize what are the wrong methods. Because usually we get stuck so much in our in our fixed routines, and we keep trying the same thing over and over again, and we don't realize that it's actually not working. But once we do realize that something is not working, then the solution will often present itself automatically, and you don't need to be told by somebody like me what the way to peace is. Instead, you just have to realize what the way of non-peace is. How do you keep disturbing yourself? How do you keep disturbing your mind? And you just stop doing that. That is the way to peace. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, it's in my experience. There's so many meditation instructions, and they're all helpful at some stage or another, but they all come down to finding peace within. And if you just keep that global aim in mind, find peace, then all the methods that bring you towards that, they're all good.